Welcome back. This week in pro football, Pat Callahan here with you. Thanks again to Ron Jaworski for joining us. By the way, give me a follow on the Twitter at TWIPF Pat. Follow the station at JAKIB Sports. Later on in the show, I still got Sean Green coming on, so please hang out with me. We'll talk to Sean about some early props, early picks, and some other interesting stuff relative to the Super Bowl. But for now, how about we bring this gentleman on here, which, of course, presented by Concrete Cutting. And this guy here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, a busy, busy man this week and the next couple of weeks, and that's Sal Paolantonio. How you doing, Sal?
Pat, who in the world's idea was it to have me follow Ron Jaworski? Come on.
Hey, man, this is like a tag team. This is a great football tag team to have you reach through the ropes and slap hands with Ron, and in comes Sal Pal. This is a match I'm going to win.
Everything I ever learned about TV, I learned from Ron Jaworski.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, between the two of you guys, I know you're familiar with the portrait of Dorian Gray. The two of you guys must have a portrait of yourselves in an attic somewhere because you guys look way younger than you ought to. I know that much. But all right, Sal, let me get started here. First off, I just made some notes. Well, let me start with this. I'd ask this to Ron. I'll ask this of you. Last week, just give me your quick thoughts on the Eagles' win. Was there anything in that game that might have concerned you? I mentioned the Eagles' passing game and whether Jalen Hurts is truly healthy. What do you think?
I think he is truly healthy, and I think he is managing the game as it's presented to him by the offensive coaching staff, Pat.
Okay.
And he's doing a very good job of it. And you can just tell today in talking to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and other players in the locker room that this team is together. This team is a team. And I have covered the Eagles for 30 years, and I've seen teams that had cliques where there was a lot of tension. And this team really succumbs each individual ego. You know, it goes back to the non-controversy of Nick Sirianni relinquishing play calling duties to give it to Shane Steichen last year. In most situations, on most Eagles teams, in most cities in the NFL, that would have been a huge story. But here, because Sirianni has no ego, and he's very good at delegating, and he's very good at having all boats rise with his energy, Jalen Hurts is the same way. He really is. It's really funny. We interviewed Jalen Hurts today, and we asked him, record-setting year, 72% completion rate from the pocket. Number one in the NFL, Pat.
Xander, maybe you can bring that up, Xander.
72%, number one. Yeah. These numbers were put together by ESPN Stats and Information.
Right.
A young man by the name of Evan Kaplan, who does such a tremendous job.
Yep.
Look at those numbers, Pat.
Yep.
15 rushing touchdowns, most. So through the air,
on
the ground. Only quarterback to go 17-1 and win a Super Bowl, Joe Montana, 1984. We're talking about the greatest of the great.
That's right.
And he's at 16-1.
I know.
So we asked him today, Pat, this is so typical. We asked him today, can you remember your best play from 2022? And he said, season's not over yet.
Yeah. That's a great answer. That's a great answer by him. He does seem, I was talking with Jaws about this, the demeanor that this guy has. You probably then, Sal, and with all the crushing, the public relations push of next week and the push and pull on the players' time for tickets and things like that and appearances, it doesn't seem like it's going to faze this guy, does it?
No, but, the NFL has set up a system and the teams follow suit where all of those things are taken care of before the plane leaves the ground on Sunday. Tickets are distributed. Players' wives and family are all settled, what they're doing, what they're not doing. You get on the plane, you prepare for the game. You have a lot of media obligations. You do every single day. You got to talk to people like me all the time.
Right. That's right. But nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And, but there are a lot of distractions. And he said he's going to tell the team another Jalen thing. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Right. And now, Sal, let me, if I could digress, walk across the aisle here. You've known Coach Reid for a long time. And it just strikes me, he just finished his 10th season as coach of the Chiefs, and he's won 125 games. with that team. That's that, it's easy to do that math. By October of 2023, assuming he coaches again, he will become the Chiefs' all-time winningest coach for a team that's been around for 63 years. So my question to you is, how does he do it? If you could boil it down, what is it about his coaching style that enables him to be so successful?
I say first and foremost design, which he learned from Mike Holmgren in Green Bay. And Holmgren learned it from Bill Walsh. That's the DNA.
Not a bad tree there. Not a bad tree to learn design.
I would say number one, design. And to be able to improvise off of that design. And to have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who's the ultimate improvisational artist with the football in his hands. We've never really seen anybody like it.
Yeah.
So you have those two combinations of things, design and improvisation off design. And what do you have? You have John Coltrane. You have you have Miles Davis. Yeah. You have composition.
Yeah.
And you have improvisation off of composition. Right. You have, Kind of Blue. You got the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And that's what you got.
Right.
And so I think that's it with Andy Reid.
So what is Philadelphia working on, do you believe, or what is the defense's primary focus going into next week then to be able to try and curb this guy and his ability to improvise and make plays seemingly out of nothing?
Pat, if I told you that, I'd have to kill you, Pat.
Yeah.
I talk to certain coaches and certain players about certain stuff, and they give me the same line. Listen, this defense has changed. And we mentioned this on the show last week. Greg Cosell did a piece on Matchup last week about how the defensive front has changed. More stunts, more twists, more games are being played to get Hassan Reddick free to the quarterback. Those kinds of things, more press coverage behind it. So they are adapting, but this is a big adaptation. Patrick Mahomes, 3rd and 4th down, inside the 20, inside the 5. Hard to get them off the field, man. It really is. And they've got McKinnon and Pacheco and Travis Kelce. And it doesn't matter if they're hurt. Really doesn't. Patrick Mahomes had a bum wheel. We all saw it.
Yeah.
And, he's the ultimate improv guy.
I know.
And I think the Eagles are going to win this game, but I think there'll be plenty of opportunity for Patrick Mahomes to steal it from them. It's
even harder to get him off the field when you give him a 5th down, which was just a bizarre 4th quarter. I mean, I'm sure you watched the game and you have to feel for the Bengals. And that, I mean, every call, and I am no way am I a conspiracy theorist or anything like that.
No.
But it's just terrible how the calls lined up against Cincinnati in that 4th quarter last week, Sal.
It's terrible. And, Chris Jones got away with a really bad hands in the face and a body slam of Joe Burrow that wasn't called in that game, Pat.
Yeah.
And now they got Carl Cheffers. Carl Cheffers this year is a referee through 4th most flags, 4th most in the NFL. And he has a history. Look it up. Look on ESPN.com and look at Carl Cheffers' history with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Checkered history. Checkered.
Oh, boy. Yep, that's interesting. I'm going to talk with Sean Green about that too, because he charts the referees all season long.
That's my man, Sean Green. Does a good job. You know, a guy is a real guy if he's looking at the referees.
That's right.
That's a guy you can trust with the numbers.
All right. Sal, I wanted to ask you two other things.
I know a lot of guys downtown that look, first thing they ask me, who's reffing the game?
That's right. God. Well, that'll be an interesting dialogue in the offseason, what the NFL is going to do. If for nothing else, Sal, from a PR perspective, they have to appear to be doing something to address what were some bad moments for the officials throughout the whole season.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I think the number one thing they have to address, Pat, is points scored per team per game 5-year low. Yeah. Somehow they got to figure that out.
Yep. All right, Sal, I want to ask you a couple other things here, if I might, talking with the great Sal Paolantonio here from the NFL Matchup Show on ESPN. All right, Tom Brady retires, Sal, a very succinct and very emotional 1-minute diatribe on social media. You've, I'm sure, spoken to Tom numerous times. Just give me your brief thoughts about that and what kind of hold this presents, not just for the Tampa Bay Bucs, but for the NFL as a whole.
Well, that's a lot, Pat, but I'll say this, and I have talked to him a lot. I covered all 10 of his Super Bowls for ESPN, and I was there at the birth of the dynasty in New England. So I know him well as a player. He has kept his heart locked up from the pick locks of biographers. And I think it will remain so until he comes out with his book. So there's a couple of things that I want to know that we don't know, Pat. One, just what was the rejection like from a lot of other teams? Did they all say, Pat, Tom, we're good. We're good. You know, even the Raiders, they looked at that film and said, doesn't look like you want to get hit, Tom. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if he had an opportunity and he rejected it, or he didn't have an opportunity and he made a decision. That's a key thing in this whole equation.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk about whether he might end up back in the Bay Area for at least one go with what's a powerful team in San Francisco that, I don't know. It looks like they're not sold on Trey Lance, but you bring up an interesting point there that I didn't think of. I was thinking Brady just autocratically said, I'm done, but maybe there was some indications there that they weren't going to line up to sign him.
Well, certainly they were, or we got the best and the best of the best in Adam Schefter, certainly, and he's very close to Tom Brady's people. Certainly, if that was the case, we would have reported it. So, and there was all those rumors about Sean Payton and him getting together, but in Miami, but they put the squash on that. Yeah. So, I think he doesn't leave much of a hole. The team they went to the playoffs only because they're in a very, very weak division. Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But the NFL, right? And look, these quarterbacks could not last forever. You just can't do it. It's a young man's game. So I think it's at some point there's got to be that great 2003 class or that early 2000s class of Roethlisberger, Eli, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. At some point, you got to stop. You got to hand the torch to somebody. And I guess Brady's the last one to do it.
Well, you look at it, and here you have two African-American quarterbacks in the Super Bowl for the first time. But more, I think that's an important historic milestone, no question about it. But Jalen Hurts is really the first bona fide running quarterback who is a dual threat, who wins from the pocket. Yeah. Go back to those numbers again. Pat, he's completing 72% of his passes from the pocket. That was highest in the league. This is a dual threat quarterback who can win from the pocket. If Jalen Hurts, I'm going to make this statement right now, week before the Super Bowl on your show, Jalen Hurts stays healthy, the Eagles will win multiple Super Bowls with him at quarterback. Multiple.
Yeah. Well, not according, Sal, to Jerry Jones. I don't know if you saw these comments today on Pro Football.
I sent it to you, Pat.
I know.
I'm like,
and
what
Jones,
the heck?
There's a lot of things that can happen for that year. In essence, we're seeing a couple of teams that have some real success putting it all out there and paying for it later in Los Angeles and Philadelphia. Where does he get the notion that the Eagles have sold out to win the Super Bowl this year, do you think?
I think it's very misguided, and I'm being very charitable about it because I cover the NFL and I like Jerry Jones.
Right.
But my gosh, he said the Eagles emptied the bucket. What bucket is empty?
Okay.
They have multiple first, second, and third round picks for the next 2-3 years.
That's correct.
That bucket, if that's the bucket he's talking about, that bucket's full. One. And two, Jalen Hurts is on a rookie contract.
That's right. Just about to say that.
Right. You cash in when your quarterback has a rookie contract.
Exactly.
Howie Roseman is the smartest NFL executive. Period. Paragraph. End of statement.
Yeah.
He's the first general manager in NFL history to be a number one seed in a conference with two different coaches and two different quarterbacks in a 5-year period. Yeah. I was on the sideline. You saw the picture on Instagram of me. Sal Pal, ESPN, by the way, is the Instagram.
There you go. I'm glad you. Good
I was on the sideline with Roger Goodell. Here I go, bold-faced name dropping. And Howie Roseman, we were on the Niners sideline. Niners sideline pregame. Howie Roseman's talking to Roger Goodell on the Niners sideline. I go over to them, start talking to them. Howie Roseman leaves because he's got things to do. It's game day.
Right.
And I said, not for nothing, Roger, what were you guys talking about? I'm a reporter. I'm allowed to ask a question. Roger's out there. It's a public domain. Let's go. So he says, I was just talking to him about how remarkable it was that he pivoted after 2017.
Yeah.
The Doug Peterson leaves or gets fired, the whole Carson Wentz thing, and he says he rebuilds the team in short order, and here they are back in the AFC Championship game. And I said, bravo for you picking on that up, Commissioner, because it's amazing.
Yeah, there's no question. If he was
in short, Pat, why doesn't we give Jerry Jones Roger Goodell's number and have them have a conversation about
That's true. Now, Dallas has solved its problems. Mike McCarthy's going to call the plays next year for the Cowboys. So I think everything's in good shape for Dallas.
Well, Pat, the last 2 times they were in a playoff game, the play calls by Kellen Moore were not so good. So maybe it's a good thing.
I don't know. It took him 10 minutes to land the same job with the Chargers, but I don't know what that means. But
it's the Chargers, Pat.
That does seem to be the default answer. That's true. All right. Would you believe, Sal, we blitzed through that time, and it was great having you on. Now, listen, I need you to carve time out for me next week. God forbid, you're probably going to work 220 hours next week, but I want you to promise me you're going to find 15 minutes for me.
Well, Jaws said it. The Super Bowl cigar party.
I know.
Ditka Jaws is Thursday night, a week from tonight.
That's right. Yeah,
well,
that's
Pat,
right.
I am going to carve out some time for you, 4:00 Mountain Time, to be on this show with you from Arizona, from Super Bowl 57, and you will get all of the insight and information that ESPN has to offer on This Week in Pro Football with Pat Callahan. But nothing can top the great Sean Green. So I'll get off the air and stop talking now.
All right, Sal. Listen, have a safe trip out there. Appreciate your time very much. Look forward to talking to you. All right. All right. The great Sal Paolantonio joining me there. Sal on his way, of course, for his, I don't know how many Super Bowls. I think he mentioned 30 Super Bowls Sal Pal has been to. And the guy's got a million stories he could tell. One of the most well-respected, maybe not the most well-respected NFL journalist in the country right now. So glad to have him on every week. All right, we got one other respected guy coming up here, and I want you to all stick around. That would be the great Sean Green is going to join me. We're going to talk about some early props and picks, and I do want to ask him about Patty Mahomes and about Carl Cheffers and what he thinks might happen next week with Cheffers throwing the flags. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football.